Welcome, everyone, to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. I'm a networking expert and the author of the upcoming book, No Strangers, How to Build Community, One Relationship at a Time. My why is the pursuit of mastery, and the goal of this podcast is to lock arms on a lifelong mission of daily personal growth to become the best version of ourselves. So let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. She is a pillar of the Ottawa music scene as a radio host in Ottawa for Live 88.5 for the last 17 years, which is ridiculous. That's like 200 years in radio years. So I'm very excited to have our guests here. So welcome to the podcast, Chelsea Miller. Chelsea, how are you? And how good does it feel for the roles to be swapped today, where during an interview, you get to, sit back and let someone else do the heavy lifting? How good does that feel?
You know what? I think I'm more nervous now doing this than I am actually interviewing people. So, but no, it is, thank you for having me. You were telling me all the other people that you've interviewed, so I don't know what I did to score this coveted spot. So I appreciate it. It must be because we grew up in the same town, obviously.
There's a little hometown connection going on. I have my finest and or only Ottawa Senators shirt in honor of two Ottawa people on the podcast here today. And I guess right. I'd like to start by sharing how we know each other. So you mentioned it. We both grew up in the small town of Russell, Ontario. Back when we grew up, back when we were kids, I think population was like 3,000. I don't know what it is now.
Oh, yeah,
probably a lot more. But we grew up not only both in Russell, Ontario, which is about 30 minutes outside of Ottawa, heading towards Montreal, but we grew up on the same block. I mean, I could walk to your house within 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something. Your brother, Kyle, and I both played hockey. So he was a few years older than I. However, both young boys playing hockey, I looked up to him, and I think maybe he helped train or coach a bit at some points. It's all a blur now, 30 some years later. And then as I got older and music became a passion of mine, I threw everything I had into music full time, and we were both in the music scene. So you were on the radio. I was trying to get on the radio, and I would see you at different events. And what's funny is 11 years ago, I moved from Ottawa to Mississauga, and when I left, you were on Live 88.5 on the radio. And then I messaged you a year ago. I moved back. And as I'm driving through Ottawa, there you are still on the radio, like nothing's changed. So I thought that was pretty funny. So that is our history. That's what I remember anyways.
Yeah, they tried to get rid of me for a couple of years. So they sent me to the East Coast, but then they brought me back. So
is that the punishment, as you get sent to the East Coast?
Yeah. No, what happened was it wasn't a punishment at all, actually. But what had happened was when you left, like you were saying, you left and moved to Toronto. I was doing the evening show, which is like the bottom. I guess it's one up from doing overnights, but still a very important, show, especially in the alt radio world. A lot of, they say a lot of alternative fans sleep most of the day, then get up at night and listen to music at night. So I was still getting a lot of people listening to me, but I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to expand my radio portfolio, I guess. So I was trying really hard to get into another position. And then I ended up having the opportunity to go from working evenings to then going to do a morning show in Halifax. So I literally went from going to bed at 4 a.m. to getting up at 4 a.m. So that was a bit of an adjustment, but it was 2 years of great experience. From the radio station was great, and Halifax is a great party town. So from what I remember, we had a good time.
That's awesome. So we're going to go through your entire career. We're going to go from the very beginning, which we'll start with that now. We're going to go all the way to today, everything that happened in between. We have questions sent in from fans. You got fans in Ottawa, man. They came out in droves. I got some surprises for you here. And the first surprise,
God, no.
Yes. Look, I went I went into the weeds, man. I got some informants from Russell. I
Holy.
infiltrated your workspace. You don't even know what's coming up here. But
Oh my
the
God.
first thing I'm going to share with you here is I mentioned that your brother and I both played hockey as kids, never together because he was a few years older. When I moved back a year ago, I saw that your brother's team, he's still playing hockey, was looking for a goalie. So I've been playing with him every 2 weeks since I've been back. Uh,
You're
so
playing
he
goalie for Kyle?
so he brought me out of retirement. I've been playing with him in Osgood every 2 weeks on Sundays, and that just
Oh,
finished. And a guy from that team is playing during the summer. And that other team, he got them to call me. So I started yesterday playing for another team. So this all starts with Kyle, has got me back playing hockey in Ottawa. So I reached out to one Kyle Miller, and
really?
this is what Kyle has to say about his sister. So here we go. As a
What?
sister, she is a fierce protector of her family, always has your back, and will support you no matter what. As a friend, her owls, we're going to talk about that in a bit, will tell you the same as she treats them like family. She wears her heart on her sleeve and is loyal to her own detriment sometimes. She has always lived by her own rules, done her own thing, and unapologetically been herself. That self awareness, thirst for adventure, and hard work ethic is what helps her succeed. Not a bad set of coattails to ride on as her brother. That's from Kyle Miller.
What a beauty. I guess I better get him a good Christmas gift. I don't know if you can you hear my dog scratching at the door right now?
No,
No? Okay.
no,
It might
but
be
I did
delivering.
do on the Finger 11 episode with
Yeah.
Rick Jacket. He had a brand new pup that
Yeah.
was with him the whole time. The
Really?
dog was very loud, and Rick's like, "Can you hear that?" We're like, "Yeah, we could definitely." So we're introduced to his new dog, and then I just had the standstills, and they had a cat that was just around them to the point where they did the interview holding the cat upside down, and the cat had its claws stuck in the beard for the whole time. So
That's well, I might have to let my bulldog in and she'll just lay down at my feet. Is that okay?
go ahead,
Okay.
whatever works for you. We'll get introduced to the bulldog. So for those that are listening, Chelsea is currently bringing in a special guest, her bulldog here.
Already made during the pandemic, Gertrude made her radio debut. So she's quite a loud snorer. So when she sleeps, sometimes she snores, but she can't be too far away. So now she's not scratching at the door. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Well, that was very nice of my brother to say that. That's great.
Yeah, maybe he's putting some goodwill in the bank for future birthday and Christmas gifts. Who knows? But
Maybe,
it's
maybe.
nice to come from a good family where there's love and respect.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, really, like I find that your siblings, if you are lucky to have one, or two, or how many ever you have, I know you have one. Um, they are your first best friend, you know. So if you can continue that relationship, minus a couple of years when you're going through your own crappy times, like I beat the crap out of my brother for a long time, and until he got bigger. And if you know him, he's not really that big, but until he did get big enough to beat me up back. And then, during my high school years, I was kind of a dick. So it was nice to have the support of him when I was getting a lot of trouble from my parents. But yeah, he's the best. He's the golden child, though. So those are really nice things to say because he's much more successful than I am.
That's too funny. So let's go back to the beginning. So you're a huge music fan. Music is your life. Music is your career. Where did this love of music come from? And do you have like an earliest musical memory where music for the first time really meant something to you and it really stood out?
I think I know my parents, our parents, I should say, always had music on. There was always either the radio was in the background or uh, there was music on all the time. If we went to my grandparents' house, there was always radio or some sort of music in the background on. So music was always big for us in that way. I can remember, taking piano lessons at I went to a French Catholic school, Saint Joseph, which at the time, speaking of our small little town, there was only 2 schools then. Now there's
That's
2
my
high
school
schools.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went to St. Joseph. So I can remember going to the piano room and doing piano. Yeah, like Bryan Adams was our first concert when I think my brother was like 5 or 6, so I was like 7 or 8. So yeah, music's always been a big staple. Did I think that it was going to take me to where I am now? I don't think so at all. I wanted to be in a band. You know, I got my mom to buy me a bass guitar when I was in high school, and I think I played it like 3 times. So that just sat in the corner and collected dust. And then, but yeah, so I think that music was always just ingrained in us. And I'm really glad that it was.
Can you remember some of the artists that were being played around your house outside of the Bryan Adams concert?
Oh God, Neil Diamond is one for sure.
That's a go-to for moms everywhere.
Yeah. Simon and Garfunkel, I remember was a big one. Rod Stewart was huge. Rod Stewart was a big deal. I'd love to say Elton John, but I don't really know if my mom had a lot of Elton John records. You know, like Willie Nelson would be on at my grandma's for sure. You know, Wayne Rodstad, I think around Christmas, you know, like stuff like that. Whatever was really being played at the time on CFRA. So CFRA didn't really go to just news until I can't remember the exact date. I don't want to date myself or whatever, but before they actually played music. And anytime we were in the car, we had CFRA on, you know, or it was like you'd switch to 54 Rock. And that was obviously before Shay came into town. So more of that classic rock stuff, or what you consider classic rock now, is definitely stuff that we listened to a lot. And it was great.
And how much do you think that growing up in Russell, Ontario, small town Ontario, how much do you think that shaped you as a person? Are there benefits to, you know, maybe you're so bored that you turn to music, it's the only escape, who knows? What do you think?
Well, I didn't turn to music, but I'm surprised I'm not a pro skateboarder now, because at the time growing up you know, I graduated high school in 94. No, sorry. I graduated high school in 97. I went into high school in 93. So we started hanging out in this parking lot, which was beside the movie store, which was across from the ice cream store in our little town. And we turned this parking lot into a hangout. And like, I walked into town, I would call it, every day, and would go and hang out. And I got in enough trouble in this little town that I couldn't imagine what would happen if I lived in the city. Like, I'd probably be arrested, I think, or I don't know. I think it would be, my life would have taken a much different trajectory, I think, if I would have grown up in the city. I'm very grateful for growing up in Russell. I love Russell. I love the community. You know, our parents were part of so much stuff. Like, my dad was part of the Lions Club. Like, I don't know, like, my dad's awful Knaufel, right? So he's like this daredevil guy who is Evel Knievel's twin cousin or evil cousin, whatever dad's story was. Anyway, and he used to jump the Castor every year. And you know, he really made it when there's a Facebook group that says, you know, you grew up in Russell when you saw awful Knaufel jump the Castor. But no, I benefit a lot of my, I guess, down to earth and kind of beating of my own drum being in Russell, because it was just us. It was just our friends, our group of friends, our friends that we're still friends with. People moving back to Russell now to raise their kids, you know, and now Russell has 2 high schools, so you don't have to bus to North Gore, or I mean, you don't have to bus to Winchester or Chesterville, or
there's a Tim Hortons in Russell. That's how you know it's grown.
Yeah. That's how I base things on, is how many schools are in Russell now. They need more pizza places though, but that's not up to me.
Yeah, when I moved back to Ottawa a year ago, I was surprised at how many of my friends had moved back to Ottawa, or even, back to Russell, and even some that never lived in Russell. So friends I knew from, you know, wherever, Winchester or other places, they bought houses in Russell as well. So I guess it's like, you know, nice place, and the distance from Ottawa means the price is a little bit cheaper on the houses, and you can get a bigger backyard and more space and all that. So Russell's kind of the place to be. And I'm helping out a friend. They need a goalie for a ball hockey game. So I'm going out next Wednesday. I'm playing, I believe, at the Russell Arena. So How about that?
Oh, I have fond memories of the Russell Arena for sure. I did a lot of good things there growing up there, a lot of fun there. I worked there, you know, I worked at the canteen. I was once a camp counselor, which I always find funny that parents left their kids with me. So there was that. But yeah, I have great memories of Russell. It's expanded so much. You know, we were always envious of Embrun. You know, Embrun had so much. They had like a Dairy Queen, and they had like fast food places and big mall, and you know, and now you know, Russell has a Tim's, and um look, we got a Tim's, you know, that's good, you know.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, your desire to become a radio DJ came a lot later than those early Russell days. Was there anything you wanted to be as a kid when you grew up? So as a kid, was there something that you wanted to be later on?
I wanted to be an FBI agent at one point in time, um, which really doesn't make any sense. But for some reason, I did. I can remember thinking I wanted to be that. I also wanted to be a paramedic or like a nurse or something to help people. Then I figured I realized how much blood was involved, and I was like, I'm good. I'll pass on that. And
So wanting to be an FBI agent, is this the precursor to your love of all those serial killer TV shows and the murder mystery podcasts? Is that all tied together?
I swear to God, it has to be. It must. Who falls asleep to like Criminal Minds? Who falls asleep watching this like terribleness unfold with truth behind it? Like somebody did these things, and I feel cozy enough to be like, ooh, bedtime, and like pass out. Well, like that's like no wonder my dreams are so effed up. Like just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they say that whatever you're doing right before bed is you're subconsciously programming, you know, the subconscious mind is being programmed. I don't know what you're trying to set up here, but
I don't know, but I planned a lot of people's murders, I guess, or something. I have no idea. But yeah, so yeah, an FBI agent for sure. Wanting to help people was another thing I wanted to do. I love to entertain. I guess yeah, you could say I love to entertain. I like to make people laugh. I saw my dad. You know, my dad was a stand-up comedian. Is still a stand-up comedian. He's got a plethora of dad jokes if you need one. And so I watched my dad entertain people. And then when I was young, I started to want to set up, like we would have family reunions every year and all kinds of people there. And I would set up bars. So I'd set up where the booze was. I would set up where the beer was. I'd have coolers set up and everything. And then I would act as the bartender. And like I wouldn't leave the picnic table. And I wasn't even like old enough to even think about drinking. Like I was like 11 or 12 or something. And I literally would like set everything up. People come to my table. They're like, oh, I'm going to have this. And that's where I learned how to bartend, not correctly, because then I actually went to college for bartending school. It was just because I wanted to play soccer, so I needed a course. I was like, oh, I'll take bartending. That's great. And I found out what an actual shot was, and it was nowhere near the amount of booze my grandma would make me measure into her cup. So it really threw me for a loop.
Grandma had differing measuring units, right?
Well, grandma had 3 fingers. Those 3 fingers in a solo cup was rum. So when I saw an ounce, I'm like, this is terrible. I'm like, well, who drinks this least amount of booze? So yeah, so that's funny. But so those are the things that I thought I wanted to be when I was a kid.
Man, grandma is badass.
Grandma is badass.
If iPods existed back when we were 16, what kind of music would I find on that iPod? What were you listening to at 16?
At 16 years old, I was listening to NoFX. My friend Amanda introduced me to NoFX when we were playing Ringette when we were like 13 or 14. So I never got rid of that. I never got rid of Face to Face. There would definitely be some Pearl Jam on there, of course. Nirvana. We had lost Kurt Cobain at that point in time. So found the Seattle grunge, as they would call it. I definitely found that. Britpop was starting to become a little bit on my radar. Was still getting over the fact that I didn't want to listen to Guns N' Roses anymore, but I still love them. So there was some of that, I guess, hair metal was still involved, but was definitely an eclectic mixture. And then of course, because we lived in the country, there was country involved in that. So like you probably find Garth Brooks, although I don't want to really talk about it. But you would.
There's
And
got
then
to
when I
be
discovered
there's got to be
the
some
Dixie
guilty
Chicks.
pleasures in there, right?
Yeah, and I discovered the Dixie Chicks, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm hooked. Now the Chicks, I should say. But yeah, so definitely an eclectic mix.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't have them back then, though. Are you? Like, I still have CDs. My car only plays CDs.
My last guest is a member of Envy of None, which is the new super group with Alex Lifeson of Rush. So so Alf said that it sounds like they're releasing CDs. Vinyl's cool now. It sounded like their label from the UK was actually going to release cassettes. So I was saying I'd have to go back to like several car models earlier to be able to play those cassettes. But
yeah, no, cassettes are it's like it started off as a novelty, right? Like I have a cassette from Pearl Jam for the 10 reissued album that came out when I was 30. So, oh my God, that's like 13 years ago almost. So I have their box set of that reissue, and I have a tape in there. And that was like a decade ago that bands were trying to bring tapes back. As for a medium to listen to, everything, how many systems are you going to need to have in your house? Like we listen to vinyl here. Like that's pretty much all we listen to. In the car, we listen to CDs, right? Like the one CD we're listening to right now is Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, which seems to be stuck in there, I think, but it's not a bad thing to have stuck in there. But yeah, I still have my CDs. I still have all that stuff. I don't have anywhere to put a cassette player. Like I don't even know if I want a cassette player. I get it, but I don't know. How far back are we going to go? I still have 8 tracks here though, but like, are we going to go back to an 8 track? That doesn't seem like the right medium to be playing.
It sounds like we're gonna see just how far back we can go.
I guess it's true. Look at the fashion right now. If I had kept all the clothes that I wore in the 90s, I could wear them now.
You'd be cool all over again, right? So I did FBI levels of digging for this interview. So at 18, you went to work for Disney World.
I did.
What was that experience like? That's a big branch out from a teenager in Russell.
Well, the reason why I did it was my mom. I came home from high school. I barely graduated, like barely. I barely graduated. I had to take correspondence courses just to graduate with the rest of my class because I wasn't very good at academics. So I graduate and I got blue hair, I think at the time or something. And my mom's like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to get a job? I'm like, no, I'm just going to hang out in the parking lot, which we've already talked about. So you're just going to hang out in the parking lot. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to hang out. It's going to be fine. And so I did that. I left and she was mad at me and I left and I went to the parking lot and I came home and a couple of days later, I come home again and she goes, there's something on the table for you. I'm like, what is it? She goes, just go look. And it's a Disney package. It's like a dossier. And it says, you have been invited to an interview in Toronto to come and work for the international program for Epcot. And I'm like, what is this? And she goes, go get a dress on. We're going to your aunt's house, who's a hairdresser, to fix your hair. We're driving to Toronto. We have an interview. So I didn't even apply to be going to this life-changing experience. It was my mom who found it in the Citizen in the want ads. So anyway, we go to Toronto and 4 hours of me just pouting, being like, I don't want this, whatever. Mom's like, this would be a good opportunity, so mom and dad, they drive me up there. There's 300 people being interviewed and I go in, I come out, mom's like, how'd it go? I'm like, well, they'd be pretty ridiculous if they didn't hire me, but whatever. Like, if I don't get it, I don't get it, but they probably should hire me, like I could totally do it. And I went back to I was working in fast food at the time and I went back to work and a week later I got a phone call and I was gone in 3 weeks. I was in Orlando, Florida, living on my own in 3 weeks. So it was a whirlwind of a thing. It was crazy. It was nuts. I encourage everybody to do it. It's great. You meet so many people. So you live on Disney property. Now you work for the rat, like that's what we call Mickey Mouse, and that's because you get paid shit. So, but they do give you a lot of
You
opportunity.
put respect on Mickey's name here.
I don't want to break. I know there's going to be people listening to this. I hope at least my mom will be listening for sure. So that's a guarantee. But there's so many, like I grew up a Disney kid. I love Disney so much. I can sing like all the words, like I know all the words to Ariel, like Little Mermaid. I love Aladdin. You know, Toy Story was so great. Like I absolutely love it. Still now to this day, as a 40, whatever I am, I still love Disney. And going there broke my heart. Like broke your heart because they tell you all the secrets, like all of them. And I it sucks because I don't want to break anybody else's heart, but like the magic is what makes it so amazing, right? But like I know what the Queen of Hearts, and I love Alice in Wonderland. I know what the Queen of Hearts looks like without her head on, and it's devastating, devastating, like broken. Winnie the Pooh, heartbroken. It's awful, awful. Anyway, putting that all aside, it was a beautiful experience. We're coming up to our 25th year that we worked at Epcot, and we're having a reunion, which is also bananas. Because we did one at our 10-year. We do one every 5 years, and every year, my friends at the Canadian Pavilion that I still talk to, they either show up with like more kids, or like their kids are bigger, or like whatever. And I just keep showing up with like a case of beer, and like I don't ever show up with anything else, or like more tattoos, and like that's about it. So they make fun of me. But I was the youngest one there. I was 18. I couldn't drink. I couldn't, like legally, I couldn't do anything. So they called me trucker. I swear a lot. So, but yeah, it was a fantastic experience. It was great. And you would think it would throw you off of hospitality, but I'm still doing it. I'm still in hospitality now. So
I have two responses to your Disney story here. So the first one is a confession. So here's my confession. When I was a kid, my family took my sister and I to see The Little Mermaid. And I was so scared of Ursula that I made my family leave. So which kid in the world, The Little Mermaid is too scary that the family has to leave? So I am so ashamed. I've been carrying this for a long time, and I feel like I had to get it out there. And this, this fits this story. So we had to leave.
This is perfect.
The Little Mermaid.
I'm glad you feel better. That's a long time to hold that secret.
It's been hard to sleep at night. Yeah.
Dude, she's a scary person. Like she's scary. I'd be scared too.
Thank you. That makes me feel better. But the movie is The Little Mermaid, which is like every little girl's favorite movie. So on that note, I infiltrated your Russell group, and I got the following quote that has to do with your Disney experience. So this is from Andrea McNally. Okay. She says, one of the things that still sticks with me and still makes me laugh is a famous quote from her after she returned from Disney. She said, "The magic certainly goes out of the kingdom pretty quickly." Her first tattoo, so this is like some deep information here. Her first tattoo on the back of her neck was when she came back from Florida. I also found out they called her Trucker because of her voice. And then a final accomplishment that maybe people don't know is with Ringette, she made it to the Ontario Winter Games representing Eastern Ontario, which is a huge accomplishment. So that's Andrea McNally, a part of this podcast.
Yes, that's my I call her my second mom. So, because her oldest and my brother, so Joey and my brother Kyle, are best friends still, even though Joey lives out west now. And I babysat her kids. So, and she's my mom's best friend too. So she is right on some of those things. They didn't call me Trucker because of my voice. They call me Trucker because I have the worst mouth, like really bad. So how I don't ever drop F-bombs on the radio is honestly a shock. I think it's a superpower of mine. But I do have a trucker mouth, absolutely. And maybe like the raspiness could totally go with it for sure. But yeah, that's she's not wrong on those things.
You have yet to drop some profanities on this podcast, I think.
Am I allowed? Is that a thing?
We've been going a half hour. I mean, it's you do you, whatever feels natural. But so far, 30 minutes, no cussing. That's pretty good.
right?
Yeah. So the
I'm winning.
trucker description is not apropos right now,
Or
but
maybe I'm lightening up in my old age.
you're
Maybe
becoming
that.
soft in your old age.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
mentioned your first tattoo. We got to talk about tattoos because there's a bunch that are visible right now. You
Yeah.
have some music tattoos. Apparently, you've been paid to have tattoos put on your body as a canvas. Can you share some of these stories?
So the first tattoo, the one that Andrea is actually talking about, is it's on my neck. And while we were in Florida, the rave scene was pretty big. So I was in Florida 97 to 98 is when I was there. And the rave scene in Florida was huge. And there's this rave group. Well, there's this group from Tampa, and they're called Rabbit in the Moon. And we would literally listen to their music and do what ravers do with the things that ravers do them with. And we would just trip balls and dance and whatever. And I loved the symbol, which was like this rabbit, this weirdly shaped rabbit, and it was in a circle. I was like, oh, that's going to fit perfectly on my neck. So when you go into the program, the international program, you pay your one-way ticket to Florida. If you graduate from the program, they give you your money back. And then you use that money for a leaving trip, whatever it may be. You and your buds get together, you all graduate together, and you're like, oh, we're going to go XYZ's, where we're going to go, we're going to use this money. So we were going to go to LA. So it was me and a bunch of my friends were going to LA, flying from Florida. So my mom said to me, don't go anywhere, come straight home. Don't go anywhere, just come straight home. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I book out my flight to LA and land in LA and call my mom. And she's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in LA. She's like, that's no way home. That's like the longest way home. I'm like, it's okay, mom. I got this money from my plane ticket. I saved up some money, for my tips and stuff. And like, it's fine. Like, I'm going to be in LA for 2 weeks. This is what we're doing, yada, yada. This is who I'm with. Anyway, I think it was about 3 days in, I called her for money. Somehow, yeah. I had the worst budget. Anyway, I somehow ran out of money. So she sent me money, and the money literally was just to go get a tattoo. So I went and got a tattoo on Hollywood Boulevard. I couldn't even tell you what the tattoo shop's name was. I had no idea. That was officially my second one. My first one was when I was 16, and it was a shamrock that I got. And I got it because I wanted to piss off my mom, which it worked, obviously. So that was my first tattoo. And the guy was hitting bongs the whole time. And like when I was in Florida, I enjoyed weed as well. So I was smoking weed at the time. And I asked him, like, can I hit some of the bong? You know what I mean? Like, when I'm getting tattooed, it'll relax me. He's like, oh, I can't really smoke out the customers. And I'm like, but I'm Canadian. Like, you guys don't even know what like good weed is. Like, their weed is garbage. And I was like, you don't even know, And he's like, no. Anyway, he got so high that the tattoo was supposed to be like this big, and it ended up like being this big because he just kept going in the round and circle and circle and circle, going around, around, around. And I'm like, hey, bro, you have to stop, because I had to go to Jay Leno. Like, we were going to Jay Leno that night to be in the crowd, which I was in the front row when we got to Berkeley. And then I left to get a tattoo, and I was the last person to get in. So I gave up my 2 front seats. Like, my friends were on TV and shit because they were like right down front. Anyway, my friend Rob still doesn't forgive me for that. But so yeah, that was my first tattoo. My other musical tattoos, which would have been the start of my one sleeve that I have, is a quote from Black. You can't really see it here, but anyway, there's some wording here, which is a quote from Black from Pearl Jam, which is my ultimate favorite tune. So I got that done, which then started off the process of getting my right arm finished. And then I raised money for leukemia and lymphoma. I raised $3,500 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I was running a half marathon in Brooklyn. And I said, if you donate $250 to my cause, I'll get your name tattooed on me. And I have 6 names, I think, or 7 names. I have a half a name because my Aunt Judy wouldn't donate the full amount of money. So I only put Jew on there, J-U.
That's too good. What are the names that are on you? Are there some ridiculous names, or are they like beautiful, beautiful
DJ
names?
No, DJ Noah is on there. So DJ
Did he
Noah,
put Noah or DJ Noah?
no, he put DJ Noah.
That's too funny.
There's my Annie Mare who was on there. I also have this, the giant tiger kitty, the logo. My friend Rod owns a giant tiger, so he wanted the logo put on instead of a name. So I put the logo on.
Someone that takes their job way too seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And then my friends own a event management company that I, sometimes do work for, called InStride. They're out of Mantic now, and I have their logo on me as well. And then I have BFG. So my friend Nick Medeiros, he has 3 kids, and he gave a big donation. So I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, do you want the kids' names on there? Like, what do you want? And he goes, no, I want you to write BFG. And I'm like, BFG? I'm like, who's BFG? He's like, best fucking guy. So now when someone asks who BFG is, I have to say, oh, it's Nick Medeiros. He's the best fucking guy. So now
see, I could be wrong, but in the world of video games, I believe in Doom, there's a gun called the BFG, and it's the big fucking gun. It's like the most legendary video game gun and name and all that. BFG, yeah. I believe. So yeah.
So I can just say that instead of Nick Medeiros' name?
You could, but the poor guy paid for it. Yeah.
And I have Catholic guilt, so then I would feel terrible if I didn't say that, And
that's the worst of all the guilts. So we're working our way through the beginning. We're getting close to the radio career. What are the other jobs that you've had over the years? So you're working in fast food. You had the year at Disney. Sounds like there was some bartending. Any other jobs? And if so, any horrible jobs that make for good stories?
Well, I was a camp counselor, which was crazy, because you had to take all the kids swimming in the afternoon, and a lot of them were kind of on medication, whether it be your medication or whatever. And for some reason, they thought it would be a good time to give them their pills before we went swimming. So then once you got to the pool, everybody was all like drugged up and zoned out. So I would like be standing in the pool with the kids and have like one on one arm and one on the other, and like one on the leg, and just make sure they weren't drowning, because like swimming was like a hard thing for them to do at that time. So I thought that was weird. I was working in administration, like filing, at my aunt and uncle's old business. They used to have a moving supply company, Patapi's Moving Supply. So I would bartend at night, and then I would go and work in the office the next day because they needed help. I don't even really know why I took this job, but like, I guess I wanted to make sure I was like everybody else in the family, because everybody had worked there at one point in time. I think I lasted 3 days. 3 days. I was like, no, I fell asleep on the computer. I'm like, who does this shit? It's filing. But like, I also was bartending like all night. Like, I get home at like 1 or 2, and then have to be up at 8. No, I was like, I'm out. That was the worst. The worst. Whoever does administration work, filing and shit, and I'm an organized person usually. I have like a little bit of OCD. Like, I get it. I love to have all that shit good to go, but oh my God, I couldn't do that. I blame the bartending part of it though. I blame not being able to go home. I can't leave a party. I have FOMO. So. But that would be the worst. I also worked fast food at Licks, so I had to sing. That was fun.
Licks had good burgers. That was always my dad's favorite burgers.
Dude, Licks had the best burgers. I still remember the songs. Their fries were the best. The guck sauce, you can buy it at the store. Doesn't taste the same.
Are Licks still around? I think the one I remember is on Bank Street, but I don't know if they're
closed. Bank in Alta Vista.
Yeah. Are there any locations?
Not in Ottawa. When you're hungover, you crave that shit, and it's gone. I think they might have one. The original, which was in the beaches in Toronto, may be there, but I feel like there might be one like near Ajax or Dixie Road or whatever. I don't really know Toronto, the outskirts of Toronto that well. I only really know downtown, and even then it's Google. So, but no, it's sad. But it was a great company. It was a female-run company, and they were really supportive of females and moving forward. And, also too, like, I had a lot of kids who I was managing at the time, and they came from like pretty shitty homes and like pretty shitty families, but they were hardworking kids, and I still see them today. Like Frankie, who used to work for me, actually works for the Wales, used to work for the Wales Bone. And I remember when he started there and he was like so excited to see me, and I had to, it took me a minute to put two and two together. But yeah, I used to be his boss when I was fucking like 18 or 19 or something. Just shows you how small Ottawa is. Ottawa is a small town.
Yeah,
But yeah,
the more I interview different guests in the Canadian music industry, everyone is connected to everyone. So that's like across Canada. So if we're talking just Ottawa, it's like you want to be a good person, because if you're not, that spreads pretty quickly. Can you
dude,
can you share your journey now, getting into radio, a career in radio? So it's not something like you dreamed about as a kid. It's kind of a crazy story how it all came to be. If you
yeah,
could bring us through there, and we can hear your dog snoring now. So your dog is now having a little afternoon nap.
yeah. Is it too loud?
It's pretty loud, so I don't know if you want to give your dog just a little love shake or something to.
I know.
She'll probably fall
Okay.
asleep right away again, but
I'll try not to have her snoring so loud. But see, that's what you would hear on the radio. And people would thought that it was my boyfriend, that I was in bed with my headphones on and just talking beside him. I'm like, no, it's my dog. But that's what she does. I can let her out too. So she
and that's how rumors spread. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Okay, so Chelsea Miller's radio journey started at well, okay, it starts kind of further back. So I was bartending an event in Greeley, and there was an auction, and an item on the auction block was that you could go and win airtime on what used to be XFM. So you would get a half hour on the morning show with Muller and Rush, and it would be great. So prior to that, people had been telling me at the bar that I should get into radio. So I was trying to find, it's not that I didn't want to bartend for the rest of my life, but I thought I should probably get a big girl job, like at the time I was 23, I went to school for bartending for a year. Then I went to hotel restaurant management for a year. I flew to Ireland, ran a restaurant in Ireland for like about a half a year. Well, it was a restaurant inside of a hotel. Realized I never wanted to do hotel restaurant management again. I never wanted to work in a hotel again. It was the fucking worst, except for the restaurant. So I came back and I was like, I don't know what to do. My regulars was like, oh, you should really think about getting into radio. You have a great voice, you tell stories, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, okay, can't be that hard. So I go and I write the test. And I was considered a senior student because I was older, right? Like I hadn't really been in school. I hadn't been doing academics. I hadn't been doing anything. I was out of school since I was 18. I was now 23, going 24. I write the test. I fail. You can only write it once a year. Like what? There's math questions for this? It's radio. Like really? Isn't it just like talking? There was like Canadian questions. I write it again the next year. I fail again. So they redirect me to go into general arts, pre-media. So that covers like the whole spectrum, right? There's like journalism writing, there's movies, blah, blah, blah. So I do that. And then shocking, the next time I go and write it, I pass. So I pass the next one and I get into radio. I'm 25 at the time then. I'm like living on my own, obviously. I'm bartending. I'm with these kids that are like 18 years old, still living with mom. I'm playing soccer for Algonquin, thinking I'm like some athlete. Anyway, so I have a really hard time keeping up my studies, like keeping everything going. And Mr. Barry, one of the teachers, said to me, he used to be on the radio forever. And he said to me, look, you could do this if you want to, but you have to focus, So I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to go and I'm going to get a job at Shea. So I ended up getting on the street team at Shea 106. So, I did that before we started. Sorry, I did that before we got, once I found out I was accepted into radio, then I got into Shea. And then he told me that I had to drop something. If I had to drop soccer, I had to drop something anyway, but I could do this if I wanted to. So working with Shea 106 for free, by the way, going to do their events, driving around their cars, doing all that stuff. We were doing this big promotional setup, and one of the interns for Doc and Woody didn't show up. And I was there, And I had already previously talked to my promotions director saying, like, I'd love to be on air. I think I'd be really good. I really want to try it out. So when the intern didn't show up, she says to Doc and Woody, oh, Chelsea's actually in the program. Maybe you could give her a shot. And Doc said, okay, show up this day at 5 a.m. Okay. So I showed up at 5 a.m. and I ended up interning for them for 9 months on the morning show twice a week, while still going to school, while still bartending. At this point, I had given up soccer for the school and my athletic dreams, and because I just couldn't do it all. So starting third semester, Shay had offered me, or no, through the summer, Shay had offered me overnights on the air. So I was doing overnights 3 nights a week, still working, still doing all that stuff. And then by the time I started third semester, which there's only 4 semesters, by the time I started third semester, Jeff had, which was the program director at the time, had said that I needed to start applying for jobs because the only way I was going to get better is if I got a job. So I applied and I ended up getting hired in Cornwall. And at that time, Live 885 had just started to kind of make noise. They were kind of like, they were looking, we weren't launching yet. This is like 2005. So I had been sending my package to the guys over there, and I ended up getting hired. They came after me in Cornwall. I was only in Cornwall for 3 months, thank fuck. And yeah, I got hired at Live, and I started in November, and we launched in December. So there's a lot of, it was quick, but it didn't feel quick, you know? If you break it down into months and years, it seemed rather quick, right? And I definitely was in the right place at the right time. And that is what radio is all about. But you control you putting yourself into that, right? So I had great experiences with Shay, with Doc and Woody. It was great. I made connections there. Just like we were talking about, like the music scene in Canada is so intertwined. Radio is so intertwined. It's even smaller, right? Like people that you go to school with and you look beside you, that could be your boss one day. That could be your program director. Like you have no idea. So yeah, in a nutshell, I guess that's how it happened. And then I hadn't even graduated from the program and I was already working full time, which was great because then I didn't have to do the last semester, which you have to volunteer hours. Because if you get a job, then you get to opt out for that. You just have to write your thesis, your big last paper. So it was great.
So someone that understands your journey more than most, someone that understands the schooling part, someone that understands what it's like being a radio DJ. This is a coworker at Live 88.5. This is Mr. Andrew Elliott, who sent in some kind words. He says, here are the things that I love about Chelsea. We're starting with as a radio host. And I should know because we went to radio school together. So I've seen the evolution. Is you really won't find a more authentic person in the media. She really is the person that you hear. Her show always feels like you're having a beer in her kitchen and she's just telling you a story. And when she jumps in our show, it just adds that extra credibility, that bit of real that's impossible to fake. Then the thing I love about Chelsea as a colleague, when we used to party, in parentheses, I'm too old now, she could goddamn party and then still somehow make it into a killer show. She always has your back. And when you disagree, which doesn't happen often, you can live with that fact and move on. No grudges held. And then things I love about Chelsea as a person, she wears her heart on her sleeve and she just wants everyone to live their best life in real life, not on the socials, but in the actual world. No matter who you are, you know, she's rooting for you just to be happy. So that's Andrew Elliott, radio DJ, Live 88.5.
Jesus, you really went far into these, finding this. You did turn into an FBI agent.
Oh, I'm just getting warmed up. We got an hour to go here. I got more surprises.
Andrew Elliott is a beauty. He and I met in college. And so I'm older, right? I'm in college. I'm older. I walk into this class, first day of school, first day. I walk into class. I'm 90%, I'm going to guarantee I was hungover from the night before. Probably worked a shift at the bar. Anyway, I sit down and the whole room was like split in two. And all the, like, not kids, but like all the students who are, I could tell are way younger than me, are on one side. And then there's a whole open side on the right. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to sit over here and be like incognito. I'm going to sit here, take my binder out, pen, whatever. I'm going to pretend I know what I'm doing in this whole thing, and I'm going to go from there. Andrew Elliott walks in. He's got like cut off jeans. He's got this weird like goatee thing going on, like, you know, flavor saver, whatever. Got all these earrings, rings. And he's like, walks in, looks to the one side where all the kids are, looks to where I am, and sits right beside me. And I'm like, are you for real, bro? Like, what is up with this? And that was what? I don't know, almost 20 years ago. And we're still friends. We work together. You know what I mean? I had to work. I couldn't go to his wedding. Yeah, so it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But yes, Andrew Elliott is a gem of a human. That was very nice. I'm going to have to buy him some beer now, although he doesn't drink that much because he's dad now. But he likes scotch, that's for sure. So maybe I'll get him some scotch for his nice words.
You're gonna owe a lot of people favors after this interview is done. When you think back,
that's why I work two jobs. That's why I work two jobs. I have to be able to pay for that shit.
The IOUs just keep adding up. When you think back to your very first day on radio, the very first time the red light goes on, if there is a red light, the mic is up and running, the people are listening. When you think back, what are the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings to that first time on radio? And did anything funny or memorable happen, or was it just a smooth day at the office?
Okay, well, there's like three different kind of like, do you want to know when I worked overnights? Because like overnights, I can remember when I started working overnights at Shea. I can remember my first couple breaks were just horrible. Like I can still have that feeling in my stomach, like I was shaking, I was sweating. You know, you're trying to remember what buttons to push. Is your mic on? You know, you're looking at the lights to see if everything's going. So yeah, I was just, oh God, it makes me even feel sick now to this day. Although I still get nervous before I turn the mic on all the time now anyway. So it's obviously not as bad anymore, but yeah, sweaty palms, sick to your stomach, and then
it sounds like the Eminem song, the 8 Mile. Yeah. What is sweaty palms, mom's?
Yeah, palms are sweaty. Yeah. And then of course, like your phone blows up, right? Because you've told all your friends that this is the first time you're going to be on the radio, and yeah, so you know your phone blows up. At the time, like your phone, I guess we didn't use that term "blow up," but you know there was messages that you had to like, whatever, press the same letter like 3 times just to spell it out. Whatever. Remember that spelling that you had to do through the number, whatever. The first time that I was ever on like Shea 106 at a time when I know a lot of people were listening to me, I ended up having I don't even know how this happened, but I was covering the afternoon drive show on Shea 106. I was like greener than green. There was no reason for me to be on this show, but I was covering it. Okay. So I'm working on the show, I'm covering it, and I am tasked with giving the last pair of tickets out for the Rolling Stone show, right? So I'm taking callers, everything's fine. I go live to air with a call. I don't have the right buttons pushed. So all you can hear as a listener on Shea is me laughing and one-sided conversation. So it'd be like, hey, Shea 106. Oh yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? Like it's all cut up because you can't hear what the other person is saying because I didn't have the right buttons pushed. So when someone came in, they bust through the door, they tell me what happened. I'm beet red, I'm sweating, I'm almost crying. I'm like so embarrassed. And then there was another time, and this was like a week long. Then there was another time in that week where people were wanting, I was like, well, what would you do for tickets, right? Well, people were offering up everything like a cottage and this and that. And I totally forgot that like you can't exchange things for stuff. Like it's payola, right? Which is a huge thing in like the fucking whatever back in the day. So anyway, guy says he's gonna let me go and stay at his family cottage. I say, cool. I give away the tickets. No big deal, right? It's not like I was ever gonna go to this guy's cottage anyway. Well, people start complaining and then blah, blah, blah. So then my boss was like, dude, you can't do that. He was laughing about it though too, but those are two very, well, I have 3 memorable experiences while being at Shea. Those 2, and then the time I hit Eric the intern in the nuts with a tennis ball.
Poor guy.
I put him in the hospital. Like, he almost had to get his nut removed. What? It was an accident. I didn't mean to. It was all part of a skit. It was Anna Kournikova was in town, and we were making him jump into a vat of cornmeal while throwing tennis balls at him. And I threw a tennis ball at him and I missed. And then Doc said, throw harder. And I threw it harder. And he goes, what are you? Throw harder. And I just chucked it at him. And just as he was jumping into the vat, the ball came and it hit him right in the nuts. We had that go for 2 weeks, that conversation on, and I was just an intern then. I wasn't even working. Like, I was just interning 3 days a week.
That sounds like a horrible idea on paper.
Dude, and he was wearing
and in actuality.
Yeah, he was wearing a little tennis skirt. So it was like everything was extra tight because he wasn't a small dude.
Yeah, you had a good target all set up. That's so horrible. So if someone is listening to this and they're thinking of getting into radio, what advice would you give now with all your experience? What advice would you give to someone that's looking to get started? What are the steps? Should they be going to school? Should they just, I don't know, YouTube videos? How do people do these things these days?
Well, to be honest, like, I think everybody thinks that terrestrial radio is going to go away, right? They think that, and they thought that when Apple came out, when streaming came out, when Sirius came out, right? When you could you had access without commercials, they thought that it was going to go away, but it isn't. Will never go away because people love local and people love traffic, or love at least knowing where it isn't. So that's what they love to do, and they love to hear that stuff. So even though there is a lot of avenues that people can go into, podcasting, for example, getting a YouTube channel, I guess, doing those kind of things. Not that I'd want to do a YouTube channel, but I think that radio still and always will have a place in the community. And I think the best things that you can do, and it's not like it used to be where you could like roll into a radio station and be like, I love music, I'm a DJ, I'm going to want to come and work, okay? And maybe that happens with some people, but that's like, I would say like a 1%, not a lot of people have that happen. So going to get the education is not a bad thing, Ottawa at Algonquin, the radio program there, Dan Mellon, the other Dan, all the teachers that are there have worked in radio, know what it's like, and they put up a curriculum that is just fantastic. And it's the best in the country, 100%. Fanshawe will tell you they're better. It's a lie. Sorry, Fanshawe, Ottawa, Algonquin rules at their program. Especially because you go on air the first week that you're there. So you're already on CKDJ, right? So my advice to you is to go, just like take the program. Don't be afraid of going back to school. Don't be afraid of how old you are, if that happens to be either. Ageism sucks, but radio is a universal thing. So I honestly would say, 1, go to the program, and 2, once you get accepted into the program, and if it takes you a while, don't worry, it took me a while, which I'm sure they made the test easier now. Then go to your local radio station, because you obviously have a love for radio through all this, right? So you love listening to a radio station, you love it. So you might as well go and work at it. So apply to work on their street team, which gives you an opportunity to have your foot in the door, which gives you the opportunity to meet all the people that are going to make your dream come true, or make this a successful gig for you, right? Because you're going to talk to your program director, you're going to talk to your sales guys, you're going to talk to all those guys. And hiring within is a really big thing for radio. They love to do that. So as long as you are focused and forward with what you want to get out of this, then success is like not too far away. That's what I think anyway.
And what would a typical day look like for a radio DJ? And do you need copious amounts of caffeine to get through, to conquer that schedule?
You know what? I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but depending on what time slot you're in will depend on how much work is done. Because a lot of us, for example, the morning show, sure, they're on the air for 4 hours, but the work that gets done outside of that is at least another 4 hours, right? So You're always prepping the night before for what you're going to do tomorrow. Especially when you come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be putting all your stuff together that morning. So you're going to have a majority of your stuff done the night before. A typical day for me is, I get to the station around 8:30. By 9:15, I've already had 2 cups of coffee. So there's that. But I go in and I do a crossover with the morning show. So they tee up my show with me, and then I'm on the air until 2. While I'm on the air, I plan my show hourly as opposed to the whole show, because things can come up and things that are a little bit more timely. But I get my paperwork and my music the night before, so I have an opportunity to go through it and have a little bit of an idea of what I want to say or what I want to talk about. But yeah, and then I leave the radio station at about 2, and then at 2:30, whatever it is, I've already worked all through my show on my other show that I have on Sunday. So there's a lot of multitasking. And then I come home at night if I'm not bartending at my other job, and I usually do show prep. I do show prep while I'm at the bar on my phone, which is show prep is just going through my sites, going through my emails, writing down things that I see. I always have a notepad going on my phone, and I write a lot of stuff because stuff will come into my head and leave quicker than it even goes in. So if I have this idea, then I just write it down on my phone. But yeah, it's not too stressful of a time. I've also been doing this for a long time, so my routine is pretty set. I don't go out Sunday nights because I hate Mondays more than ever. So if I happen to be out a little bit later during the week, it doesn't affect me that much the next day. Whereas if I'm out late on Sunday, I already hate the fact that Monday's coming. So if I compound that with like a little bit too many cocktails, then I'm just screwed. So I just don't go out Sunday nights, which is probably an adult thing for me to do. But it's a pretty typical laid back kind of day, which maybe I should make it sound more strenuous. I don't know. The drive show and the morning show, they have way more stuff to do.
So I talk maybe 2 or 3 hours a week on this podcast, and I have to consciously make an effort not to repeat myself. For someone like you that's on the air, I don't know, 5 days a week, how difficult is it to come up with fresh things to say and not share the same stories or not, say the same things? How can after 17 years, how can you still find something to say?
The funny thing is that the listening pattern of an actual listener is they only listen to 10% of what we have to say. So if we talk for a minute, they're only listening for like maybe the first half, maybe the middle, or maybe the end. Repeating bits isn't that big of a deal because you're not going to catch the same person every time, all the time. But I'm glad you brought that up because I am conscious about what I say. And I try not to repeat the same story. Like I could tell the same story every time Sam Roberts comes about me getting kicked out of his concert. But like I've already told that since 2008. You know what I mean? Because that's when it happened. But not everybody has heard that story because there's new listeners every day. So it's a balance of trying to remember that, but the internet is a fascinating place, which makes it very easy for me not to repeat stuff over and over again. And I guess it's just going out there and living, right? Like going out, and which was very hard during the pandemic, but going out and telling stories and repeating stories, or just talking about the things that I do, talking about my dog, talking about that kind of stuff. The liberty that we have and what we can talk about at the station is also fantastic. So if we were limited to only being able to talk about like 5 things, you would hear the same kind of stuff all the time. But we are open to talk about whatever we want in moderation, obviously. So yeah, that makes it a lot easier not to repeat. Plus the fact that bands are always doing something, you can always spin stuff a certain way. I think being in this industry, you have somewhat of creativity in you a little bit, so you can find creative ways to do things. And because we are such a tight team, it's easy to bounce ideas off of other people, like the other jocks, like bounce stuff off Andrew and Amal and Dave on the morning, or I'll bounce stuff off Jen, or Noah will give us stuff. So a lot of us share a lot of that. We share a lot of stuff and help each other out a lot. And we've all been working together minus Amal for 17 years, right? Amal came in a little bit later, but Amal's still been there, I think, 15 or 14 years or something. So we've all become like a pretty big family, or a small family, I should say. So bouncing ideas off each other is what makes it easy.
Is there an actual list of things you're not allowed to talk about? So you would assume, you can't say things that are sexist or racist or whatever, but is there an actual list? Like when you go to a gym, it's like no phone in the change room, no whatever.
Right.
Is there a list that all the radio DJs have looked at that says there's 8 things that you just do not touch? Does that exist?
You know what? It might exist somewhere. It could possibly exist somewhere. With us, it doesn't exist. We don't have one of those lists. There's obviously common sense things, and I know common sense, once we learn how to bottle it and sell it, whoever learns how to do that is going to be a fucking millionaire. But until that time, we assume that you have the common sense. So there's also we went from, we as being, Live was owned by New Cap, which was a small company, but still had owned a lot of stations across the country. Like I think we were 90 some stations or whatever. So we ended up getting bought out by Stingray. So now Stingray has their own radio wing, which is us. They have a lot of TV and karaoke is where they made their money. So, all that. But so there are times when you have to toe the corporate line, so to speak. And that is just because there are certain things, and I get that, there are certain things that we want, and what we say is always going to be representative of the station, right? Now, of course, if you feel seriously about something and you want to take that stand, they definitely aren't going to push you off of it. But I've always found that my thought process anyway, and my thinking, is that I never wanted to use radio as a soapbox. I never wanted to get up there and preach. That's not what I got into it to do. To me, radio is really inclusive and fun. And now there are things that upset me, and you'll definitely know, but my delivery will be much more sarcastic. And if you understand my sarcasm, then you already think the same way as me. So you're cool, if you don't get it and you think I'm being offensive, well, there's probably nothing that we should be talking about anyway, because it just went right over your head. So you don't get it. Not to be a dick or anything, but I try definitely to keep it on the, like, I'm not trying to say that I'm definitely not silenced in any way, but there definitely isn't a list of things like you come in like, oh, can't talk about that today. It's on the list. Like, oh shit, can't say that. You don't swear. You're not going to be a racist because racists are dicks, and none of us are, right? It was hard during the occupation to not really voice like my actual real shit, you know what I mean? Which was hard, but I bit my tongue, you know what I mean? Because then it would become preachy, and that it was just so dividing, right? It was so dividing. This whole pandemic has been dividing, but so yeah, there's no list. I'd love to see if there was a list though, because I would wonder what the list would say. Besides, I feel like there would be like, don't swear, don't be a racist, and then like use common sense. And then maybe subtitles under the common sense being like, if you don't have common sense, this is what we mean, but I'm not sure. That's how I envision this list.
And if the Ottawa Senators don't make the playoffs, don't mention it on the radio, like little things like that,
Yeah, like be carefully cheering for the Leafs on the radio. Are you a Habs fan? Now, mind you, the rock radio and sports radio and news, we all are in radio, but it's a completely different like ballpark, you know what I mean? Right? So, and I love sports, and I would love to be a sportscaster, I think that would be fantastic. Like as a kid, I always looked up to that stuff, but that's because we played so much sports, and I played so much ringette and was on the ice with my dad, doing hockey camps and stuff. So I just never thought I could be on the other side of the camera. I never thought I would be that appealing to be on the other side of the camera. My brother actually made me a t-shirt that said I have a face for radio. So I take the radio sports thing. That would be an amazing thing, but it's a lot of work in sports radio.
Do you ever have days where the last thing you want is to talk on the radio?
Oh, 100%. Oh my God, 100%. But
Every day.
yeah. Every day, Joelle. Okay. No, as my boss is listening. Oh God, no. Yeah. There are definitely days when I don't want to play radio at all. And it's it's so funny because I get those days and I'm like, I have nothing to talk about. I have nothing to say. It's scraping the bottom of your brain. Um, and then you sit in that chair and you get your stuff together and you literally just like, it just all comes. And even if it's not a lot, right? Like, worst case scenario, you can always talk about the music. Always. There's always a story behind the music. There's always a story behind the artist. There's always something, whether you dig back deep or something current or some part of like, like this band used to be called this or before they switched it to this. You know what I mean? And that's all. That's all you need. Our listeners come to us because they love our music. We fill in the blanks. I'm not doing a talk show. I'm not trying to fill like I'm not doing a podcast like yours, right? Where you're filling like 2 hours of time. I talk 3 times an hour for a minute, right? So as I sit there and be a big baby some days where I don't want to do it, I got 3 minutes out of a whole hour where I got to fill. I think I can fucking suck it up, especially sitting in a job that a lot of people would love to have. Like I'll never take radio for granted ever. And I also will never ever feel like I'm good or like I'm like, oh, I'm perfect. I've reached the maximum that I can reach. Doc told me that from Doc and Woody. Doc said, I said, when do you actually feel like you're good? Like, when do you get this way? And he's like, if you ever get that way, you might need to check yourself because you never get that way. And that's what makes you better because you're always striving to get better. And you want to improve. You want to say less ums. You want to have tighter breaks. You want to hit your posts. You want to be out. Like, I love being out in the community. I love doing volunteer work through the station. Like, we have 5 hours of work, but I have commitments on weekends. I have promotional stuff I have to do. And I love that stuff. I love doing, we do a lot of stuff with Canoe for Kids. We do a lot of stuff with Dragon Boat. We do great stuff with Hope. We're a major sponsor with Hope Volleyball Summerfest. So that whole weekend, I got to go and get on stage, play volleyball, and be backstage with bands. Oh, shitty,
Tough break.
Yeah. Like, oh, it sucks, man. So I never once complain. And really, if I am not in the mood to be on the air, it's mostly because I put myself in that state, and that's usually my own fault. So I can't blame anybody else. So, yeah, but it happens.
So when I let my parents know that I was going to have you on as a guest, they sent me a list of like 20 questions to ask. So I picked one question for each of them. So from my dad, Dennis Martin, what do you like most about your job? And how does a person stay sharp every day when on the air? So that's from my dad. And then from my mom, what was your worst day on radio, whether it was technical problems or a horrible caller that calls in and you're stuck with them on the air? So those are the two questions. So what do you love most and how do you stay sharp? And then what was the worst day?
Okay, well, I think my worst day, honestly, I'm trying to think if I had bad days at live. I'm sure I have. But I think my worst day was when I went on the air on Shay and you couldn't hear the other person. Honestly, I still have dreams about that still. And maybe hitting Eric the instrument in the nuts. I do feel bad about that because like the poor guy almost lost his nut, And my mom always told me to never hit a boy in the nuts unless you really needed to because them's important to them, So I was like, oh my God. So I think that might have been the worst. There was a lot of hard days, I will say, as a bonus side to that in the beginning of live, because there was so many technical issues that we were going through as a new station. And a lot of the work was getting done during the evening. So I always had my engineer there with me, fixing stuff or going over things or, dead air here or, whatever. So, and I think the thing I love most about my job or about being on the radio is how we connect with people and you don't really know how much you connect with people. Yeah, you don't really know, like picking up the phone, and I have to remember this too, because sometimes I can be really bitchy on the phone. My sarcasm sometimes doesn't come across as it would if I was in real life, right? Because you can see me, I can make a face, whatever, I can laugh. But like sometimes I come off because I have a really hard time with dumb, and sometimes people make dumb comments and I just can't handle it. I'm like, what's happening? But I have to remember that listeners that, yeah. So anyway, I have to remember this. I'm working on it. But I think the way that we connect with people is really, really humbling. And I think that I don't think that is my, honestly, my favorite thing. My favorite thing. When I moved to Halifax, I made an announcement on the air. And this was after 8 years that I've been with Live. And I made an announcement on the air. I'm an emotional person, as you know from the testimonials you got from my brother and Andrew. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm pretty emotional. I seem really tough, but it's a total fake. I could have been an actress, I think. And I got emotional on the air because I was saying goodbye, and it was hard, and it was scary, and I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to. I had over 500 comments from listeners. What? That's crazy. But the comments were all the same. Like, who am I going to drive home with that night? Going out to the garage is never going to be the same because I'm not going to be able to listen to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think that. It's even hard for me now to imagine the 3 people who listen to me, or whatever it is, right? It could be 3, it could be 300,000. Who knows how many people listen to me? But that connection that you make could really make or break someone's day just by chatting, telling ridiculous stories about your white owls or your brother, Like I did have an embarrassing story about my brother though too, which I am going to tell because I tell it all the time. That I did to him. But so I think that would be it. And staying sharp, we've already talked about it. Caffeine's the best. Caffeine and the internet when it's doing good things and not terrible things.
So celebrities say it's hard to connect. How to phrase this? So celebrities say sometimes it's hard to connect with fans because the fans feel like they really know you and you're just meeting them for the first time. So you're not on the same page, So you've seen an actor in 10 movies and so that's 20 hours of a journey you've been with them. And then they're meeting this stranger and you tell them you love them. You tell them you're a fan. They know all this stuff about you. You know nothing about them. So sometimes that's difficult. And with you on the radio, if they've been listening to you for 17 years, they feel like you're a best friend, a family member. And it's hard. The expectations when they show up and they meet you and you're starting at 0 and they're at 100.
And you know what? The majority of our listeners are like that because they know everything about us. Like people I know will tell me that they know exactly how the inside of my house is laid out, which I've never gone to that extent to let you know how my house is. But that's kind of like the idea, right? And it's true. But also because we've been doing this for so long and because Live has done a lot of community things, we had the Live Lounge, which we were there all the time, live music, live shows. We were there just as guests, you know what I mean? Like enjoying the live music and stuff. You get to meet some of these listeners in person. So we have actually been fortunate enough to establish an actual friendship with these people, right? So they do know things about us, but that's only a handful of them. That's not all of them, right? So if I'm at 1 out of 10, I might know a little bit more about you than me. So I'm starting a little bit ahead. Like you said, instead of starting at 0, I might be starting at like 10 or 15, but they still know everything about me. So it is hard, but that's why. And I also find it, for some people calling the radio station is a thing. Like it's just a normal thing. Whereas I never called radio stations. Like I was in one radio station contest for XFM, and I only did it because my best friend wanted tickets to go to a show, and she couldn't run fast, and I could run fast. That's the only reason why. But like I wouldn't call, I wouldn't make requests, I wouldn't do anything. But there are people who obviously enjoy doing that, right? So what doesn't float for me doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't float for you. So you have to remember that. You do have to remember that. And that sarcasm does not translate over the phone as well as you'd like it to. So apologize to anybody who I've done that to who's listening.
You've done lots of interviews over the years with different artists, different bands. Who have you interviewed that you were the biggest fan of before interviewing them? And then what is the worst interview you've done or the worst call-in that happened?
Oh, okay. So I have two. So I had one. So I got to interview Chris Cornell.
Wow.
So I interviewed Chris Cornell. Remember when he put out that solo album, and it was
more dancey with Timbaland?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I was told I was going to be able to interview him, and it was around that time. So the night before, I had done so much research, like so much, from like, I'm talking like we're going FBI like you did, but like all the way back to like Mother Love Bone, you know, like we're going far, far back, Seattle shit. And then I wanted to like intertwine back and like, you know, Temple the Dog and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I get on the phone the next day and it's their manager, like, hi, Chelsea. Hi, yeah. Okay, here's Mr. Cornell. Okay. You'll have about 15 minutes. Go ahead. Hands the phone. I'm like, hi, Chris. How are you? Hi, Chelsea. How are you? And his voice is just perfect, you know? And you're like, oh my God, I'm talking to Chris Cornell right now. I think I asked him 3 questions and he talked the whole time. The whole time. He just talked. And like, I couldn't even tell you what the questions were, but it was not even a fraction of what I wanted to talk about. Like not even one thing. Like I didn't get to Mother Love Bone. I really only just talked about like the teaming up with Timbaland, I think. And then, I wanted him to talk about Billie Jean, his cover of Billie Jean. I remember I wanted to talk about that too. Like that was it. So the fact that I got to talk to Chris Cornell is a huge, huge thing. Then I interviewed the guys from Bad Religion. And I'm a big fan of Bad Religion. I couldn't believe I was actually talking to this like punk royalty, right? And couldn't get my words out. I couldn't think. I was just so nervous that they actually stopped me and told me to breathe. They're like, honey, it's fine. Just take a breath. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So yeah, those are 2 big ones. I got to interview Laura Jane Grace before she transitioned. And huge fan of Against Me, like huge fan. And I was so misprepared. I'd like disappointed myself about how unprepared I was because she was touring at the time for her White Crosses album. Massive album. It was huge. Great album. I love it. I listen to it all the time. And I just like asked about Poutine, like how the tour was going. Have you had a Poutine? Like nothing. Like just so unprepared. It made myself look so unprofessional. Like it was just, so now if I ever get to interview her again, I want to bring that up, apologize for my unprofessionalism, and then do like a kick-ass interview. So, but I have a couple of those, like Brody Dahl. She was way too hungover. I was on her bus. She didn't want to do it. And then after the show, she was drunk again. And there's a picture of me straddling her. And she had a huge belt buckle on, like a massive belt. Remember, like we used to wear those big belt buckles? And I was around her, like I was on her and I was around her and I got stuck on her belt and I like couldn't get off. I was like, oh God, I'm stuck. Oh God. In my like nether region. So that was entertaining. But all the rest of them have gone pretty well, I would say. I would think. I didn't get my hoo-hoo stuck on anybody else's belt. So there's that. But I would interview her again though too. She put on a great show.
So when I put out the bat signal for fan questions, one person sent in so many questions. This is your biggest fan for sure. So this is Kristen Courville. So she lives out in the boonies around, you know, Russell, Limoges, out there, Chrysler, out in that area.
Oh, wow.
So here's her question. Well, I selected one of 30 questions. So this is.
Come on, she didn't write 30 questions.
I swear to God. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. And then she asked, like, oh, how'd I do? Like, maybe she didn't do well enough with her 30 questions. So this is your super fan. Shout out to Kristen. She says, how has your family reacted to things you've talked about on air? Has there been any issues with them since, you know, maybe like trust, or do they tell you flat out, I don't want you to talk about me or this and that, or do they actively help you to find content? So what happens with family with all these stories?
You know what? My family has been not only very supportive of me talking openly about things that happened to us, but my brother has also called into my show numerous times over the years to give his updates on, traffic updates because he lives way out in Orleans. So like traffic updates, but what's going on there. He'll call for certain things that we're talking about. And, it's funny that he still does this because my brother, when we were younger, would fall asleep like all the time, right? He was narcoleptic. I would always say that he was narcoleptic. And like even driving, so like when we were teenagers, he'd be driving and then he would just pull over and just like sleep on the side of the road until he was ready to rock and roll. Where it would be fine with my parents because he's the second kid. The first kid, I had the car. I'd have to be home. If I wasn't home, I'd be in shit. You know what I mean? Like I paved the way for that kid. Anyway, so on the air, I'm talking about this and telling this story. And instead of saying that my brother is narcoleptic, I said my brother was a necrophiliac.
Isn't that where you have sex with corpses? Or is that
Yeah.
not it? Well, it could be true. We don't know for sure.
And whatever, I support my brother whatever he wants to do. So anyway, I hit my microphone. I'm like, yeah, pretty good. It's a pretty funny story. Pat myself on the back. The phones light up. My phone's blowing up. People are like, dude, you just said your brother fucks dead people. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't mean that. I meant he falls asleep. My brother's calling me. What the fuck did you just say?
The next phone call was your brother from prison.
So needless to say, I had to go and obviously correct myself. But people will still come up to my brother and be like, yo, remember that time your sister said you fuck dead people? So to answer my super fans question, no, they are very supportive. Actually, you know what? My mom's friends and my mom's neighbors are kind of jealous that I talk about my mom and dad as much as I do. They're like, why does Chelsea always talk about you? My mom's like, because I'm a great sidekick, It's really easy to make fun of Emerald, and she's a good sport. So, and my dad contributes to my dad jokes if I have any as well. So there's that.
So we have some questions from some of those crazy Russell people that know your family. So bear with this. So from Aaron Franny, is that right? Franny. Aaron Franny.
Yes.
This is some weird questions. If you could travel to another planet, which one would you choose? What are your favorite memories from Russell? Have you ever been arrested? Who is your favorite uncle? And be careful when you answer. And then in response to that, from Shannon Underwood, she says, or who's your favorite aunt? Even more careful when you answer this. So I'm assuming this is family or neighbors or whatever.
Yeah. So that my uncle Aaron is one of my 3 uncles on my mother's side. My Aunt Shannon is her oldest sister, one of 5 on my mom's side. So I have 8. My mom is one of 8 and my dad is one of 5.
So the questions are hard to remember, but if you could travel to another planet, favorite memories from Russell, and have you been arrested?
Well, actually, if I could go to a Star Wars planet, I'd want to go to Tatooine. Although it's pretty dusty there and like destitute and stuff, but seeing as it is, I know this is going to air later, and I do love Star Wars so much. Yeah, I would go to Tatooine. Probably easier to go to Mars though, because it's real. So there's that one. Have I ever been arrested? Like technically, no. Like I've never actually gone to jail, but I have been put in the back of a cop car a couple of times. But I've never been like put in cuffs or like not done anything like that. And I've never been booked in. Like I've never been booked in. If he claims to think that I have been, then I don't know what he's talking about. Like I almost got arrested in Florida, but he let us go. So it was close. I've been close. And who's my favorite uncle? He wants me to say him, but he knows it's my Uncle Tyrone, so it's fine.
Shots fired.
Yeah. He already knows. He'll be fine. He'll bug me when he sees me in a couple days.
You mentioned earlier that overnight you get a list of songs or topics or things that are going to get played. Is there any wiggle room to add some of your favorite music or some listener calls, or is it just straight here, follow the script, talk about it?
When it comes to phone calls, for sure, we can play whatever we want. When it comes to music, it's a little bit more dicey. there is an algorithm and a method to the madness when it comes to the music that we play because of all the regulations that we have to follow. Being terrestrial radio, being Canadian radio, 40%
CanCon?
Yeah, so we have to play 40% CanCon. And our music director, who is DJ Noah, he meticulously builds our playlists, and we can ask him, if we can switch some songs out. We also have songs that we have that are already scheduled in that if we don't have enough time to play them, we can drop them, which won't affect his algorithm or anything. As for requests, we do what we can, like we have All Request Friday with Jen Traplin. So that's a big opportunity to get everything on. It's funny because a lot of people request the songs that we already play. So not to bust the magic of radio, but if it's already playing, then I just go like, oh yeah, it's coming up, a little secret there. But besides that, there's always room to do something. It just has to go through the right channels. So I like to say it's above my pay grade. So I ask Noah. If Noah says yes, okay, cool. If Noah says no, all right. Then I push them to Fridays with Jen, which she loves.
Well, you know what else Jen Traplin loves? You. So here's a quote from Jen Traplin, radio DJ, Live 88.5. She says, Chelsea, this is one of the best quotes I've ever had on this podcast. So she says, Chelsea Miller is hands down the greatest storyteller you will ever meet, with a voice you'll never forget. To know her is to love her. And as I'm sure you know, everybody does. She is charming and generous and hilarious. She has the best comebacks, a wicked sense of humor, and an awesome laugh. She cares deeply and loves many. I am eternally grateful for her friendship and the thousands of laughs that we have shared. That's from Jen Traplin. And if ever I pass away early, I want her speaking at my funeral, because that is a legendary quote.
Jen is a very legendary, beautiful human being who has the gift of, like, I don't know why she talks about my voice. Her voice is like butter, We've been fortunate enough to work together, but also too, we're really lucky. Her, myself, and Amal, outside of the radio station, we're really good friends, like really, really good friends. Have been through a lot of shit together over the last, 15 years together. And I'm very grateful for Jen's friendship, Jen's support, Jen's leadership on the radio, leadership as a female, as representing, like there's a lot of talk about radio being the old boys club, and it's not wrong. It's real. It's a thing. But the glass ceiling is starting to break. And even just us here in Ottawa, for an example, Live 88.5 at one point was the only station in Canada. This might be a big stretch. Ontario for sure, but I bet you Jen will tell me I'm right. In Canada, that had a female on every day part. Every single day part had a female. It's like friggin' unheard of. Like that shit's crazy, right? And especially now when a lot of stuff is automated or there's voice tracking that is done for other stations, it's much more affordable to have a morning show and then have me voice track for Vancouver or me voice track for PEI and do all that stuff. And the fact that we still have live people on all day is huge. And it's a testament to our company and to our station and just the fact. But that was a very sweet quote. She's a good writer, eh? She used to write for the Metro. That was her side hustle. Oh man, I got to buy her wine now.
Yeah, she sent me that quote. Send me that quote, and she's like, "Is this okay?" I'm like, "That's the greatest piece of literature that anyone's ever sent me." Anyway, she said you're a great storyteller. Do you think that's your greatest strength? Is your storytelling?
I think so. I'm not good at talking about myself really, but I would say that it has definitely improved as I've gotten more comfortable in the chair and behind the microphone. I definitely will say that. I do enjoy telling stories when I'm not on the microphone. I get animated, and a lot of my friends will tell you that. But yeah, storytelling I think is definitely a strong point. Also, not taking myself too seriously either, I think, is also helped me along the way. like I'll say the most ridiculous stuff that makes absolutely no sense, but I just laugh it off and hope nobody was really listening. And then I'll get a phone call being like, did you just say that? I'm like, damn it, you caught what I was saying. So yeah, storytelling, I think for sure. And I'm definitely not the best at it. And I try to improve on it every day. I have, since I worked in Halifax, so it's 6 years ago now, I worked with a brilliant person who was almost like 15 years younger than me at the time. His name was Colin. And he really helped me become a better announcer. Um, he's very smart. He's very witty, but he writes things out and he's calculated, and he's just a great broadcaster. And he was 23 at the time. He's got a couple books published now, but he made me a better announcer because he made me put more work into it. You can't just come in and grab the mic and wing it. You know what I mean? You have to know what you're going into, so you sound concise and you sound precise. And by doing that, it makes you deliver your message much easier. So as much as a good storyteller I am, I'm only as good as what I write down and how I write it out, right? So, and Colin was the reason why I do that now, which I honestly think has made it much better, has made me a better announcer, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, storytelling is fun.
When people ask me what I do, I say I'm a storyteller, and I tell stories through music, through writing, through podcasting, through business. And I heard a powerful quote once that storytellers actually rule the world. When you think about it, like Steve Jobs was a storyteller and he captivated people, and musicians are storytellers, and writers are storytellers, and actors are storytellers. And when you're going on dates, it's storytelling. When you have a job interview, you're sharing your story. So if you can get good at storytelling, it might be the most powerful arsenal that you have, the most powerful weapon in your arsenal.
Oh, 100%. Our old GM, and he's only our old GM because he retired, said to me once that I could read the phone book and captivate people. And I was like, is that good or is that a bad thing? And he's like, no, people want to listen to you because of the voice you have, right? And I'm lucky that I do have this type of voice, this octave or whatever it is. But Scott was a storyteller, and he built Live 88.5 on being storytellers. And that's what we are. We are storytellers. We aren't announcers. We are all those things that encompass what you say to describe a radio jock or whatever we are. But we are storytellers. And when you think of what Live 88.5 is as a station, is we tell stories. We tell stories about tech. We tell stories about music. We tell stories about ourselves. We tell stories about the environment. We're very progressive. It's a beautiful place to work. But it all started with our head storyteller, which is Scott. And I wouldn't be in this position right now if it wasn't for Scott taking a chance, and Neil, my first program director, but also Dan, my current program director, for keeping me, hired and being the support that he is. But there are people that you remember, in your life, and yeah, Scotty is definitely our storyteller. So we owe a lot of stuff to him. But you're right, having that in your back pocket is your trump card, man. It's great.
We have a fan question sent in from Mike Lamonde. He says, or he asked, what is the wildest story you can share from your years with the Gray Owls? So number one, for those that aren't familiar, what are the Gray Owls? You mentioned when we were talking before that it was the White Owls, but now with cancel culture, you can't call anything white or black. So have you been calling it the Gray Owls or just the Owls? So anyways, clarify what that is for our listeners.
Okay, so we call ourselves the Owls. We were formerly known as the White Owls, and now we figure with society, and we don't want to offend anybody, we just call ourselves the Owls. And we are a group of friends. There's 8 of us, and we've been friends. Some of us have been friends since before we were teenagers. A lot of us were friends. We got to know each other in high school. Some of us before high school. Anyway, and we are best friends and have been best friends for 35 years, I guess now. And we were at a bar one night, all of us, and I don't know why or how this came about, but Jessica, one of the girls, we were trying to get everybody together, like round everybody up, and she decides that she's just going to stand on a stool and just goes, "White Owls unite!" like that, like just out of nowhere, and all of us are like, we just like flocked towards her, and it doesn't make any sense as to why, and it's never gone anywhere else. So obviously, over the years, there's been marriages, divorces, kids, more kids, more heartaches, more kids. But we're still super tight. We still, minus the ones who don't live here. One of the girls, Erin, she owns this beautiful, like 100 acres or something, a beautiful land in Prince Edward County where she has a beautiful wellness retreat. So we don't see her as much. And Jessica has moved to Australia. So she's been living in Australia over a decade now. So we don't see her a lot either. But we went to Greece for our 40th birthdays. And Jessica came and met us there from Australia, which was awesome. And Erin was there too. So it was a beautiful time. I don't know if there's any like, crazy stories that I can't share or can share. We've done a lot of, like one of the girls used to work at the cop bar. So there's a lot of those stories I can't talk about. But, we've done some crazy shit, like crazy shit. But we've never been arrested. Very close. We used to like to steal plants. Why? Why the fuck do you need to steal plants from people? I don't know. But it was a thing. We used to do it all the time. We also used to flash truck drivers as we were driving on the 417, or if we were driving to Montreal. We used to go to a cottage just past Montreal, not just past, I'm lying, in Saint Jean Port Joli. Have you ever been there? It's past Quebec City, like 8 hours. Jessica's family has a cottage there, so we used to go there every summer, and we'd have a girl trip there. And sure as shit, we'd have like flashing truckers on the Trans-Canada, have these truckers following us. My mom would be like, "You guys are going to get killed or something's going to happen to you." We're like, "No, it's fine, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, it's fine until they like pull up at the same exit as you. And you're like, "Oh, shit."
They don't recognize you with your shirts on, though.
No. But yeah, so those are the White Owls, or I should say the Owls. They get talked about a lot through the show. We do a lot of stuff. They do a lot of stuff. I wouldn't be anywhere without them, though. Honestly, they've been they're my life, my sisters from other misters. We can go for months without talking, which we don't, but we could, and it would still. They're the best friends. We have matching tattoos. Like, are you really friends if you don't have matching tattoos? I don't think so. That's like a prerequisite.
I don't have any tattoos, but then again, I don't have any real friends. So maybe I'll go get my first tattoo with somebody that's willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the story with the owls. We have white. I have a. I don't even know if you can see it really well, but there's an owl tattoo right there. You see that?
Yep.
Pretty good. She did a good job. So, yeah.
So I have a tough question for you here. So, no math involved, but radio makes its money from advertising. Now, over the years, with the rise of internet advertising that could be taking away some of the money that would go to radio advertising, and with the rise of streaming, where people can access any music they want without any ads and without any delay, how does radio compete with that? So you said there's still a place for radio. It's never going away. So how does radio compete with that? What is the competitive advantage?
The competitive advantage of radio is, how in sales they always say, if you want to make money, you have to spend money. It's like a thing in sales. Radio advertising is not cheap, but the people that you can reach will benefit, is the benefit in the end. And really simply, terrestrial radio will survive because people want to know about traffic, like I mentioned before, and people want to know about local stuff. They want the local weather. They want the local traffic. They want to know why it's taking so long to get down the 417 going west, at 5:30 at night, where you go, well, it's 5:30 on the 417. But anyway, that is what people want to know. And that'll never change. It'll never, ever, 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 ever change. I think, too, is radio is competitive in the way that, at least with Stingray, we have the opportunity to take what we're doing on radio and putting it onto TV and putting it onto streaming sites because of the company that we have and because of the progressiveness of our company, which is lucky. And I think that is going to be the way of the future, but making sure that the radio portion of your TV or of whatever that company has to play a big role as well. Maybe not a big role. Like, it doesn't have to be 50-50, 60-40. You can look at other companies and their radio division is like, bleh. Like, you're looking at 5%. They don't give a shit, whereas the way that our company, and I'm not just like toting our company, but I am because I like to get paid, but the way that, and I believe it, but the way that they are doing it is a bit different because they're looking at radio as its own entity, but it's still propping up the other things. Like, we prop up the karaoke, just like the karaoke props up us. The TV stations that play all of our Stingray channels, we have Stingray channels, like our radio stations are on there, right? So it's a whole a mixed bag of things. But I am a firm believer that no one will ever not want to know why there's traffic, and no one will ever not want to know when there's a fucking snowstorm coming. Even though, being a meteorologist, you can be wrong 90% of the time and still keep your job, right? So, and all we do is just repeat the weather that they're already telling us is supposed to happen, whether it happens or not. But I do believe, I really do believe that it's just local shit. Like, you listen to Sirius, you can listen to like Lithium or like all those awesome alt stations. They are starting to get commercials on them too. So, okay, terrestrial has commercials too, shitty. But you're sitting on like the Alexandria Bridge and you're not fucking moving, listening to some shitty commercial that has nothing to do with your town or anything, and you still don't know why the fuck you're stuck. But if you jumped over to us, you're going to hear, like Corbet and, whatever, local this, local that, local commercial. And then, oh, by the way, some douchebag just hit a pole on the bridge and that's why you're stuck. So, and we're still going to play the same shit that Lithium plays. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's my terrestrial radio argument. I think I did well.
Good job. Yeah, A plus, gold star. So for the final 15 minutes here, we still have a ton of questions. Some are sent in from fans. Are you good if we rapid fire through some of these bad boys?
Oh man, okay, yeah. Let me get some water going here. I'm ready.
All right. The preparation has commenced. What are the top misconceptions that people have about radio DJs?
That we pick the music. We don't. It's not us. There's somebody else that does it for us. All we're doing is playing it and filling the space in between.
Being on the radio for the last 17 years in Ottawa, do you think it gives you a special appreciation for the city, for the people, for the music scene?
100%. I absolutely disagree with the fact that people say that Ottawa is the city that fun forgot, because I have a lot of fun in this city. And the one thing that I do hope for is that once this pandemic is over and the economy starts to bounce back, I hope that it goes into the local music scene and we stop losing our music venues. This is what I want. I love that we are doing a lot of things at Bronson Center and we're doing stuff at SAW, and SAW had a big revamp, but like, we don't have Ritual, we don't have Babylon. I wish someone would just give us Barrymore's back so we could fix it and rock the shit out of that place, so that's my hope going forward.
Yeah, see, I actually wasn't aware of all the venues that have closed here. I was just at the Bronson Center for I Mother Earth the other day. Tonight, I'm at the Bronson Center with Bad Flower. So I had a friend won some tickets and can't go. So as soon as we're done, I'm going to head out there. So I know the Bronson Center is alive and well, but I didn't know that all those other ones had closed. I guess I got to look into that.
Well, and like Zaphod is no longer, but 27 Club is there. 27 Club is great. The Dominion's still going. The Laugh is still going. But, like Babylon was a place for, it was a great room. It was a great venue, a smaller venue too. So yeah, it's just, we need to somehow get music money back into the hands of the artists, or at least into the venues. That's what I'm gonna say.
I saw Alexis on Fire at Babylon back in the day.
Right? Like, but I've been sick. They've been ridiculous. I can't wait to see them this summer. It's gonna be awesome.
So you've been a professional DJ for a long time. What do you account for that longevity, and how do you still keep this fun after all this time?
Oh shit, I don't know. I think it's because I don't want to grow up. Like, I think that that's what it is. Not that I'm not a grown up, but I think the fact that I'm young at heart, adulting's not cool, but I know I have to do it. Just check my bank account. Yeah, I don't know. I think what it is, I don't take this job. I don't take anything that I have for granted. I don't take this opportunity for granted. I'm grateful every day that I get to wake up and really do this job that isn't that hard, like, and a lot of people say to me all the time, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. Like, they fan out, like, oh my God, Chelsea Miller, like, I can't believe it's you. And I'm like, dude, don't fan out towards me. Like, did you go see that doctor at CHIO who just saved this fucking kid, or a paramedic, or someone like, and that's awful, because I shouldn't discount what we do, because we also lift people up. We give people company. We get them through tough times. We share music with them. Music is it's a healing entity. It helps you through your best times, your darkest times, and we're the facilitator in that. So I need to stop discounting what we do, and maybe it's because I'm a bit too humble, or I don't know, but I am very lucky, and I'm very proud that I get to do this every day. Well, that they let me anyway for now. See, after this podcast comes out, just kidding.
Do you listen to music at home, or do you get your fill at work every day? And then if you do listen to music at home, who would you say are your all-time favorite artists, favorite albums?
Right now, I listen to what we have on vinyl. So I call him the boy on the radio. So the boy has a very eclectic vinyl collection, as do I. But at home right now, we're listening to, like, if I can get Pearl Jam on, I will. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't have a Clash record on, whichever Clash record might be at the top of the pile. That's a big thing. Right now, we're really into listening to the White Stripes and Jack White. The latest Royal Blood album is fucking killer. I have a Lagwagon album that I've been listening to too, from a listener. My No Effects albums, I have them too. The Foo Fighters' latest one is really good. So we try to turn the TV off on weekends and just play records, but we have a lot of old stuff too. Like I have a great Specials record that we spin a lot, especially if we're getting ready to go out, get us a little dancey. We also have some Bowie in the house, so lots of Arcade Fire too. So yeah, it's pretty eclectic. But it's, and like a lot of older stuff too, like the stuff that you find on like soundtracks. Like I have both Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, which I think that's one of the best soundtracks that a movie has ever put out, besides anything that came out of the 80s, obviously. But yeah, so that's that stuff.
So a few responses to those artists. Every year I make a list of my top albums that came out, and I had the Royal Blood album in my top albums of 2021. So that's a killer album. I just listened to the new Jack White. I was going to say Jack Black. The new Jack White album that came out a few weeks ago. It's killer, especially if you're a guitarist. Crazy guitar, crazy sounds, crazy tones.
I know.
You mentioned Pearl Jam. They're playing Ottawa. Or you happen to be going to that at all? Tickets are not cheap. Not cheap.
So one thing I haven't admitted yet in this podcast that I guess I must, I'm part of the 10 Club. So I'm part of the Pearl Jam fan club. I've been part of the fan club for probably 15 years. Like I was part of the fan club when you pay $10. It's gone up, obviously, inflation. But what the fan club gets you is you get access to bootlegs, you get access to specials, you get access to all kinds of cool merch. You also get access to tickets first. So when they are going on tour, 10 Club then gives you the option to put in for, you get to do a draw. So whatever the tour dates are, you go in and you say, yeah, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to go here. Then they're going to pull a draw. They'll email you and be like, you got them or you didn't. But whatever you put your name in for, you're committed to. So one year I committed myself to 3 Pearl Jam shows, saw them in Ottawa, London, Ontario, and Calgary. Within like months. Oh, never mind, my dog was talking. Yeah, so sorry. So I am going to the Pearl Jam show. I bought the tickets 2 years ago, and then old Pandy hit. So anyway, yes, I'm going, but yes, they aren't cheap. And how do you feel about concert tickets as I turn this around on you? How do you feel about the price of concert tickets right now? 30. Anyway, sorry. The dog's so loud.
So I have a ton of concert tickets. Like I've purchased a ton of tickets. And to be honest, I think because of the pandemic and, still not everyone feels comfortable going to concerts. Artists make most of their money from ticket sales, from live events with the merch and all that. So I think I've noticed that most tickets are cheaper than usual, because it's like they want to put the bar pretty low to get people back in. So I have tickets to, I don't know, 10, 15 upcoming concerts, all of Blues Fest. Like that's what I do. And most major artists tickets are like, I'd say on average about $40, $30, $40. And then I had a friend that said, hey, any good concerts coming up? I'd love to go. I haven't gone to a concert in years. And I said, well, Pearl Jam tickets go on sale, whatever, in a few days. I'd be willing to go to that. And I look, and tickets start at $150. And I told him, I'm like, I don't like Pearl Jam that much. Like, I like Pearl Jam. I respect them. For $50, $70, maybe 100, but 150, I was like, okay.
Are you okay? So
I'm gonna go see I Mother Earth 4 more times for that. So
I didn't pay that much for those tickets. I didn't pay $150 for my tickets. There's no way.
Yeah, but you're also super fangirl from the last 15 years.
I guess like when
you get your ticket for like $40 and you get a free massage when you're there. It's not fair.
From Eddie, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I paid $150 for that. Yeah.
I don't think I would pay $150. Like we paid.
But he sings to you while he does it as well.
And swings and he swings. He always lands like swings on something and drinking wine at the same time. Well, we're going to see a festival in Boston 3 days. And it cost us, let's say with exchange for 2 GAs for 3 days, it costs us $700. Like, that's not bad for 3 days.
Okay. All of Blues Fest cost me like $212 or something. And then just Pearl Jam is going to be that price. Come on.
Yeah,
you want to see Rage Against the Machine within all of Blues Fest.
Yeah.
Come on, Eddie Vedder. What are we doing here?
Rage Against the Machine, Alanis Morissette, Garbage, The National, The Beaches. We're going to see so many people at Blues Fest. It's crazy. That's too much money. As a super fan, I'm even saying $150 is nuts.
So I would say there should be $150 tickets available to that show, but it shouldn't be 300s, worst seat in the house, back against the wall. There's no reason that ticket should be $150. That's all I'm saying.
100%.
Like, make that
100%.
ticket $40 or $50 and I'm there. But starting at 150 feels disrespectful to me. That is all I'm going to say.
I don't disagree with you on that one, even speaking as a super fan.
All right, we've addressed that issue. What's the best concert you've ever seen? And don't tell me Pearl Jam. How dare you?
I will. The best concert that I have ever seen, to be perfectly honest with you, was one I saw a couple of years ago. It was Muse on their last tour in Montreal. I had never seen Muse before. It was the best show. It was theatrical. It told a story throughout the beginning, the whole thing. They're playing, like, of course, they're fucking amazing musicians. And the sound that they make for 3 dudes is fucking phenomenal. but it was everything else. It's the art, it's the theatrical part, the story that you watch unfold throughout the whole thing. It was just fucking great. It was in Montreal at the Bell Center. I don't know if Montreal does it better. You know, I saw Prophets of Rage at Montreal, one of the best fucking shows I've seen too. And I wasn't on the
Prophets
floor.
of Rage is a super group, right?
Yeah.
It's a super
Yeah.
group,
So,
including members of
Rage
Rage
Against the
and
Machine, Rage Against the Machine, and then Cypress Hill and Chuck D. One of the guys from Cypress Hill, and then Chuck D. Dude, it was so great. It was awesome. And I going to the show, I'm like, oh man, this was 6 years ago. I was like, oh shit, I really hope I'm in the pit. Got there, was in the first row, like was in the first level, mid section. It was great. And then I looked at the pit and I was like, I am so glad I'm not in there. The entire floor was just this of fucking people. And then there was this old dude with like long hair, just like rocking out, like surfing the whole thing. But like Montreal, they do it crazy. It's fucking nuts. They're crazy and they don't hold back. And like, I'm old. So I was like waving from up top, like, this is great. So those are two really great shows that I went to. I also went to Bonnaroo years ago. So there were so many shows at Bonnaroo back in 2014, like Elton John. Oh my God. Elton John on the third day of a festival when you've done probably enough drugs to like put you in some emotional state. And he starts singing Tiny Dancer and the whole crowd starts to cry. Like, you're not crying because the song, you're crying because you haven't slept in fucking 4 days. Anyway, those are those ones.
The first concert I saw back after the pandemic was Dream Theater in Montreal, which was insanity. And on May 17th, I head back to Montreal for a concert that's been rescheduled for the last 2 years, going to see Megadeth in Montreal.
Oh my God. You're going to have the best time. I'm seeing Metallica for the first time in my entire life at the end of May.
Wow. Where's that? That's not in Canada.
No, it's in Boston. With the Strokes, Weezer, Run the Jewels. It's a festival in Boston. It's Boston calling. It's going to be nuts.
You'll be impressed. In Ottawa, back in the day, I saw Godsmack open for Metallica, so it was a double bill. So I have an Ottawa Metallica show that I've seen, and then I saw them in Toronto at the whatever the Sky Dome or the Rogers Center with 50,000 people. So
wow.
So yeah, if you've never seen Metallica, that's going to be amazing. And speaking of, you know, the bands that are known as the greatest live bands still active, there's Metallica. And what's funny is you mentioned Muse. So a few years ago in Toronto, I had tickets to Muse, and then months apart, I had tickets to Green Day. So these are all considered the best live shows you can go to. And something happened, I think, with Green Day, where there was an injury, something they had to reschedule. And they rescheduled it the day, it was 2 days in a row, not the same day, but I think I saw Green Day, and the very next day I saw Muse. And it's like two of the greatest live bands you can see, and I saw them back to back. So part of that is, you know, you could say it's an incredible 48 hours of music, but then you're also comparing back to back shows of two great bands, and they're very different, but I felt that one kind of took away from the other. You know how world-class Muse is, that Green Day was awesome and the energy and giving everything they've got, but the production levels, like the audio, the video, everything with Muse was unbelievable. It was next level, even versus Green Day. And it's a strange comparison, but when I saw Rush live, talking about a three-piece, both Muse and Rush, a three-piece live that can sound like a 12-piece, I can compare them in that way, which is one of the only comparisons you can make between the bands. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think comparing, Green Day and Muse, I don't think you can fairly say one was better than the other, because they both bring two completely different shows to you. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I've seen Green Day light their stage on fire at Warped Tour. You know, I've seen them grow into this like crazy theatrical band now, which is just unbelievable. Like to think, like remember seeing them in like 96, you know, kicking shit over and just being punk assholes. And then they put out rock operas. It's crazy. It's also crazy to think we're old enough to watch the bands grow in that way too.
Yeah, Green Day's gone through quite the evolution. So just a few more questions. This is the last fan question from Steve. Steve Maynard, which live money shot band, winner or competitor, impressed you the most? So that's the Live 88.5 Big Money Shot.
Oh, well, one of the bands that I'll never forget is Loud Love. They weren't a winner, but they were a winner. You know, the argument is still going that they should have been the winner that year, but they weren't for, you know, reasons. That's what competitions are all about. But Loud Love stands out to me, not only for the music that they put out, but just the guys that they were and how all of those years ago, we're still, like I still see guys in the band and we still chat and we still talk and it's really great. Going back to an example of like building a friendship with, you know, people through radio. So they would be definitely one of them. You know, and then there's another band that I'll always remember too is Sam Welland's band. Remember Sam Welland's band?
Yeah, there's the two brothers. I went to high school with them in grade 9.
Yeah. No way. What the fuck? They're gonna kill me. Anyway, they were just a band who came in and wanted nothing to do with the competition, but were such amazing musicians and an amazing band. They blew everybody away and made it to a part of the competition they never thought they would. So yeah, I think they're called, what were they called? No Way something. I don't know. And then one of Justin's brother or Justin was in it, or Jonathan Darvo. Anyway. And then of course there's Colorado. I just love Colorado. I love them so much. I love the guys in the band. I love their wives. I love their parents, you know. I also have a connection with Menno and his dad, and I used to serve them in Manotick. And I can remember Annie Murphy, who, you know, now is a big superstar actress. But I can remember her and the girlfriends at the time who turned into wives for everybody in the band, like Nixon's girlfriend and everybody. And they had confetti guns. They would shoot the confetti off. And then because they were such a poor indie band that the girlfriends had to run out and pick up all the confetti off the floor that stuff back in the I'm like, look where you guys are now. You'll have your own record label. And so it is sad that they aren't making music together, but they are still making music together just in different forms, which is great. So
well, you had your Sam Roberts story. Well, Sam Roberts and Menno have a super group now, right? With Tokyo Police Club. And who's the fourth? Sloan, members from Sloan. I just played the other day in Ottawa, and the drummer Jake was the special guest. He was playing guitar and singing, and he's one of the upcoming guests on this podcast. So in June, he'll be coming on, and we love Colorado. I'm actually in one of their music videos for they shot a music video in Toronto for Desire 126. And it has the Kids in the Hall, one of the Kids in the Hall guys in the music video.
Yeah. I remember that when they did that. Well, you say hi to Jake for me. I love that guy. Ask him how his runs are going. He's been doing lots of running again. So
perfect. I will.
That's my fan question for Jake.
Fan question for Jake. Awesome. So just a few more rapid fire and we are done. When you look back on your life and career, what are you most proud of and what are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for this career, and I'm most proud of the charitable contributions that I get to be part of, whether it be helping out, just helping out all. I love doing the charity work. I love doing all that kind of stuff. So being able to help and being part of the community is what I'm most proud of. I hope that when this is all over, people say, well, Chelsea Miller was a really big part of this community. I hope people say that. And I hope I don't, I hope I do them justice for when they do say it. So I do really enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
If you could sit down for a conversation with anybody living or dead, who would it be?
Well, it would be really hard for me, but I would really like to sit down with Dave Grohl. For so many reasons. I want to sit down. I have to say Eddie Vedder, but I don't, I guess, have to, but I would. Like, I wouldn't say no. I would want to sit with John Favreau and pick his brain. I think that would be great. I would want to sit with Linda Perry and see how that shit is all about. You know, she's gone through some pretty crazy shit, done a lot for the industry. I watch interviews with Alanis Morissette all the time, and I just feel that I just want to sit there and have somebody else ask the questions, but me just be like, So I just feel like I'm not intellectually like smart enough to talk with her because she's just so brilliant, but she's also so like, boo, 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 like all over the place. And I know sometimes I can be that way too, but she's a very like organized scatterbrain. And I think it's a fascinating place to be. So those are some of them off the top of my head.
Final two questions, and these are the hardest questions of all. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Chelsea, what do you believe is the meaning of life? What do you think is this strange journey? What is this all about? What's going on here?
I think the meaning of life is that you should find whatever it is that you need that makes you laugh. I think laughing is the meaning of life. I think now you don't always have to be happy. Fuck, I'm not happy all the time. But I think if you can find your way out of whatever dark spot you're in to find whatever makes you laugh, I think that is a big part of meaning of life, and family as well, good or bad. You can't choose them, so you might as well fucking deal with them. But look, my brother's great. Look at all the nice things he said about me. He obviously wants a good Christmas gift. So
he's a smart man.
Is it hard?
What's that?
I wonder if the last question's hard.
This is the hardest question of all. So imagine that you could go back in time and you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self. So imagine cute little Chelsea Miller sitting on a chair beside you, and you could share some words of advice, a little bit of wisdom from all the years since then of discovery, of personal growth, of mentorship, of training and experience, the highs, the lows, the wins, the losses. What do you say to that 10-year-old Chelsea to help her on her way?
They're going to offer you a huge chance to have a huge line of credit. Don't take it. Is that one? Don't take it. Another one I think is stop putting other people first. Put yourself first and don't feel bad about it. And ignore that little aching noise in your tummy. It's only the Catholic guilt and it's not real. So don't worry about it. And also, maybe you should have stayed in Ireland when you met that boy, just saying. But then you wouldn't be where you are now. So who knows? But no, I think telling my 10-year-old self to putting myself first and to not be afraid to jump. Just take that leap, because you never know where it's going to take you. So that's what I would say. She did pretty good, but there are some where she should have leaped more, you know, or leaped backwards, like got the fuck out of that situation. But that's what I would say. Jesus, those last ones were hard.
They were tough. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share as we wrap up? Anything that needs to be said?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I really appreciate all the work that you put into this and getting those people to say those such nice things. That's fucking amazing. I honestly, it's been a privilege to sit here with you. I can remember seeing you at the arena as a kid. I can remember seeing you go through all your musical adventures, trying to help you out as much as I could on the radio and stuff, and even all your live shows that we saw you at. You're very skilled. And I'm very proud of where you are right now. I hope you are too. You sound like I'm an old lady who used to babysit you or something. Say hi to your parents for me. But besides that, no, I think you've covered it. And again, I remember saying to you, fuck, we're not going to be able to talk about my life about 2 hours. And we've been here for over 2 hours. People actually going to listen to this? Oh my God, it's going to be your lowest streamed one.
Don't jinx it. But to be honest, when I put out the promo that you were coming up and asking for fan questions, I got the biggest response of any episode I've had. just
Come
people
on.
were sharing it, people were commenting. The Ottawa community is alive and well. Your fans from Live 88.5. The Army is it's real. It's a real thing. The last thing here is, where can our listeners find you on social media? So if they want to hear your voice, they can tune in to Live 88.5. But if they want to maybe reach out, if they want to slide into the DMs and say, hey, I love the interview, I actually listened to the full 2 hours and 15 minutes. Where can they find you? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
Yeah. So you can find me on you can find me on Facebook. I think I'm just Chelsea Miller 17. I don't even know what my Facebook handle is, but it's Chelsea Miller. It's really easy to find. There are, by the way, fun fact, 5 other Chelsea Millers that are in Ottawa. So they call me a lot to tell me that they are Chelsea Miller. I'm like, but I'm Chelsea Miller. Anyway, so yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, just at Chelsea Miller. Instagram, my Instagram handle is all Miller, no filler. So this is going back to, this is why you don't give yourself a Hotmail account all those years ago. That's the same with Instagram. And then the radio station, you can hear me either on the internet or through our app or through the radio player app. And I'm on Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 2. I have a 90s show that plays every day at 1, but then I do a recap, and you can hear me on Sundays from 2 to 6.
There you go. So Chelsea, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I wanted to sit down with you. I wanted to be able to do a deep dive into the world of radio. That's something that we haven't had here on the podcast. I know that a lot of people are interested. Some people are considering it as a career. You didn't think we could go an hour and a half, 2 hours. We went 2 hours and 15. I could keep going. I got a concert to get to. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for your storytelling. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you asking me on. Anytime you want to do this again, let me know. I think we filled it all up, though. The next one will only be like 15 minutes or something. We've probably covered enough, but enjoy the show tonight, and I look forward to listening to this when it comes out. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And to our listeners, to the Chelsea Miller fans, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'd love to hear from you guys. My goal is to grow this podcast organically, where you're giving me feedback on topics you'd like me to cover and guests you'd like me to interview. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joel Martin Mastery. Joel is Joel, and on Twitter at Joel Mastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.